A jealous man, fueled by cocaine, alcohol and prescription drugs, roaming a packed holiday park looking for violence. Unfortunately, he found it. And in so doing, he ruined countless lives, including his own. At Porthcawl in South Wales, like in many parts of the UK, there are a number of caravan parks dotted around the coastline. Treco Bay Caravan Site in Porthcawl is one of the largest in the UK. It's massive. And at 6:40 a.m. on Sunday the 8th of March 2015, a holidaymaker assumed the groaning sounds that had woken him up was a drunk under his static caravan who'd passed out there after a night on the beers. But when he went outside, he saw items scattered on the park roadway and spots of blood, and then the legs of a man sticking out from beneath the caravan, barely moving. He knew this was no man who had just drunk too much and called 999. The man he had seen, he later discovered, was 18-year-old Connor Marshall. The weekend shouldn't have ended like this. Connor, an A-level student from nearby Barry, and his two friends had gone away for the weekend to have some fun, to hit some bars, and to play some amusements. Connor was a friendly, popular, and compassionate man with a warm, infectious smile, a cheeky wink, someone who enjoyed playing the saxophone, athletics, and triathlons. His mum Nadine later told the BBC how she recalled it being just another weekend as she waved him off, saying, "It was the usual, have fun, stay safe." He was really excited, he was buzzing. He was in a really good place in his life. And he told her he'd be back early the next day on Sunday the 8th of March to celebrate her birthday. So when in the morning there was a knock at the door just before 7:30 a.m, she assumed it was Connor, either back early, or maybe hadn't even gone to bed that evening, back to celebrate her birthday. But on the doorstep, it was every parent's worst nightmare. There stood two solemn-looking police officers, who told them there had been an incident that Connor was involved in, and he was on his way to the hospital. The family raced to the hospital in Cardiff to be with Connor, where they were told he was in resuscitation with life-threatening injuries. And Connor was in a terrible state from the devastatingly brutal attack he had suffered. I won't show the pictures here, but they're just incredibly upsetting to view. You can find them online. And 24 hours later, the doctor told the family that Connor was not responding as they'd hoped. And 4 days after the attack was the worst possible outcome, when the family had to take that decision to turn off the life support machine. And this vibrant young man with everything to live for died at just 18 years old. As Connor's parents waited at the hospital, detectives were trying to find his killer, and they quickly worked out Connor's movements on the day he was attacked. While coming back from a nearby sports bar on the Saturday night, Connor, a keen photographer, had told his two pals to go back to the caravan without him, as he wanted to head to the beach to take some shots. You got some CCTV showing this. And what happened next is what detectives wanted to discover. Aware that time was of the essence due to the transit nature of visitors to a caravan park, officers quickly visited over 200 caravans, looking for witnesses as well as speaking to his friends about what happened that night. The CCTV was good, it wasn't grainy as we so often see, and it showed Connor buying beer in the shop with friends before leaving a bar on site and heading to a sports bar in town. The three were captured again, leaving that bar at the end of the evening, before heading back to the caravan at about 2 a.m. Detectives clarified there were no incidents in the bar, so this didn't seem to be a revenge attack. And about 30 minutes after they came back to the site, CCTV showed Connor walking around outside on his own on his way back towards the caravan. This backed up what his friends had told detectives. There was one other key piece of evidence discovered by police at the scene of the caravan where Connor was found. There was a blood-stained metal pole, and the analysis of the pole showed that the blood was Connor's, and a fingerprint on it belonged to someone very well known to them, 26-year-old local man David Braddon. Braddon had a number of convictions, including assaulting a policeman, drugs and animal cruelty, and they quickly discovered that he too had been staying at the caravan park that weekend. But when detectives went to his house, there was no sign of him. And CCTV gave them indication of his movements, as in the early hours of Sunday morning, he was seen leaving Checo Bay Caravan Park in his mum's car, before being dropped at a railway station in Caerphilly, just a few miles away the next day. From there he headed to the north of England via London, and then to an aunt's house in Glasgow. Sadly for Braddon, in terms of evading the authorities, he was no Ted Bundy. When detectives were at his mum's house, he actually called her on her phone, and although she asked him to turn himself in to answer questions about Connor, he refused to do so. But it didn't take detectives long to find him, and when police turned up at his aunt's house in Glasgow a day after Connor's death, the big man was hiding behind the sofa. His first words to detectives were, "Is the boy dead?" And what he told detectives was truly shocking. He said he hadn't meant to kill Connor. He'd never met him before. It had been a case of mistaken identity. Father of 3, Braddon, was staying at Checo Bay with his girlfriend Victoria. When he discovered that his girlfriend's ex-partner was staying there at the same weekend, Braddon didn't like it. He didn't like her ex, and he didn't like the fact he was staying at the same place. Using Victoria's phone, he had sent the ex text messages, pretending to be her, hoping to lure him into a confrontation so he could attack him. But unbeknown to Braddon, the ex had clocked him earlier in the day, and knowing his reputation, he was determined to stay well out of his way, a great decision that probably saved his life. When the ex didn't respond to his fake messages, Braddon got more and more agitated. This wasn't helped by the fact he had taken 50 Valium tablets, as well as cocaine and alcohol. He had a bad back and the Valium helped, but that weekend Braddon was seriously losing control. He ended up taking the whole packet, telling detectives that he was, I quote, out of his head. After receiving no response from Victoria's ex, Braddon thought he would get proactive and track him down. So he went outside and he wandered the caravan site. In a highly agitated and aggressive mood, he was looking for aggro. When questioned by detectives, Braddon told how he first came across Connor, saying during the police interviews, "He was walking ahead of me the first time I recall him. He just turned around, there was like no one else about, it was darkness. He started saying, he started arguing, swearing and that. He started swearing back, so I just assumed it was him. We started fighting and it just got out of control. I smacked his legs once or twice, I didn't want to cause him serious damage. I wanted to humiliate him. So I stripped his clothes, chucked his clothes on top of the caravans, punched him one more time, and that was that." It was only after the dreadful assault was over that he used his phone to check him in the darkness, and then he realised he'd assaulted the wrong man. He then asked him, "Are you all right?" before returning to the caravan with blood on his face, telling Victoria he'd beaten up a boy. Then he went to sleep. During police interviews, Braddon happily admitted that he went out that night intending to have a fight, but he said he wasn't planning to kill someone. He later admitted he went over the top in the attack. He was charged with Connor's murder and faced trial for his actions. At his trial, where he pleaded guilty to murder, it transpired that at the time of the attack, Braddon was under supervision for previous offences. He was also on a curfew and had been ordered to attend anti-drugs and alcohol meetings, but had missed 8 appointments with no good reason. Yep, 8 appointments. Braddon's QC said in his defence, he makes no excuses for his actions and deeply regrets the heartache he has caused Mr. Marshall's family. The judge sentenced Braddon to life in prison with a minimum term of 20 years. What happened next? The lack of respect. We hear about it often, unfortunately, on this channel. As Braddon was led to the cells, friends and relations of Connor applauded, but Braddon, defiant, if that's the word, to the end, gave them a thumbs up sign. It just shows, doesn't it, that any remorse shown was just for appearances. Nothing was meant. And as his supporters left the court building, one of them threw a bottle at a journalist. Classy stuff, huh? In a statement read outside court, Connor's mum Nadine said their family had been left traumatised by what had happened. This callous, senseless and unprovoked attack has traumatised our entire family and many friends, she said. No family should ever have to endure the sickening ordeal that we now find ourselves in. Sadly, our lives will never be the same. Connor, he was only 18, with a future full of hopes and dreams. He was handsome, kind and caring, and very much loved by us, his family, and his many friends. It's impossible to express the hurt, the anger and the sadness that we each feel continuously. Connor had a tattoo on his arm which read, "Life goes on," which was significant in the family's decision to honour his wishes and donate organs. His injuries were so severe that only his liver and kidneys could be donated, but that went on to save the lives of 3 people. But whereas the organ donation was one positive from such a terrible event, unfortunately the response from the authorities was depressingly familiar, and Connor's family were even refused access to details of the killer's probation monitoring for over a year when they wanted answers. Why do authorities behave like this? Why do they treat us in this way when they work for us? It's utterly beyond me. The report, when it was finally revealed, told how Braddon was being monitored by probation workers after he was convicted for drugs offences and assaulting a police officer. It showed a probation system not fit for purpose, where inexperienced staff, they did their best, but they couldn't manage their impossible workloads. And although they knew Braddon had missed a string of appointments and admitted that he was back drinking and had come off medication that helped his mental health problems, there was no time for them to manage him properly. Braddon, and more importantly Connor and his family, were all clearly failed by the authorities. You and I can sit here and shake our head at this, but Connor's mum Nadine and their family and friends have to live with the fact that the attack might never have happened if Braddon had been more tightly monitored. David Braddon was a time bomb, she said. He should have had tighter controls and better management. So there we have it. What a shocking story. I wonder if, like me, you feel for David Braddon's family and his 3 children in particular, who've been devastated by his actions and now will know full well just who their dad really is. But of course, our real sympathies must lie with the family and friends of Connor. For losing Connor, who at just 18 years old had his whole life ahead of him to live, it's just so unfair, isn't it? Thank you so much for watching this video today. If you found it of interest, please do watch one of my others. Until next time, I've been Adam Lloyd.